All right, let's talk about Chapter 4, Business Ethics and Social Responsibility, Doing Well by Doing Good. This is very important because as business owners or future employees, we know that we want our business to be successful. And in order to do that, our customers and employees and everybody that knows us needs to trust us. They need to know that we're doing the right thing. They need to know that we have good ethics, that our products are going to be made with thinking about safety, and that we're going to produce things using ethical practices. All right, so what are ethics? It's a set of beliefs about right and wrong or good and bad. There is a universal ethical standards where researchers have researched and found the ethical norms that apply to all people across a broad spectrum of situations. And then there's the study of business ethics, which is going to be the application of right and wrong in a business setting. And then underneath here we've got ethical dilemmas. We're going to be doing a discussion board that's going to include some ethical dilemmas, but these are ethical situations that don't have a clear-cut right or wrong because both answers have something in it that doesn't feel right or doesn't do a group right. So in that, it's hard to pick, and you have to just look at all of the pros and cons and goods and bads and pick the least of the evils, basically. So ethical dilemmas are hard, and they do come up on a very regular basis in business settings. All right, also we need to take note that some things are illegal but ethical, and some things are unethical but legal. Let's look at how this works. So the ones that are easiest to look at first are legal and ethical. These are good in both ways. They're both legal and ethical. When you reward integrity, when you produce high quality products, that's legal and it's ethical. And then the other cut and dry one is illegal and unethical. These are just bad no matter how you look at it. Embezzling money is illegal and unethical. Engaging in sexual harassment is illegal and unethical. But look at some of these more gray areas. Legal but unethical. So if you produce products that you know will break before their time, we call that planned obsolescence. In other words, you make a product and you know it's going to wear out before it should. That's legal, but it's unethical. Let's look at the flip side of this. If you collaborate with medical clinics to guarantee low prices in low-income counties, that's collusion, and that's illegal. But the reason that you were doing it was good. In your heart, you were trying to provide medical care to people who couldn't afford it. So that's ethical, but it's illegal. All right, those universal ethical standards that we talked about include trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. These are ethical standards that everyone shares. So we do all share those, but ethical decisions and thoughts about ethics is influenced by personal needs, family culture, religion, and personality traits. So the way that you were raised and who your friends are and what you saw as social norms do affect ethics. Also, people that score high on personal empathy tests tend to have the highest levels of ethical leadership. So if a person puts themselves into other people's shoes and thinks about the way that they would feel, then they tend to have the highest levels of ethical leadership. Ethics in the organization, so a business has an influence on the ethical conduct of the individual employees. If you get a very cutthroat, competitive business where you don't talk about ethics and you only talk about winning, you may have employees who do not choose ethical choices. So the business environment can have a key impact on the ethics in your company. All right, so a code of ethics is something that you can put into place to help your company be more ethical. It's going to be a written document that defines the ethical standards of your organization, and it gives the employees information that will help them to make ethical decisions across a range of situations. So the first thing that you need to realize is that if you own a business, your employees are going to come across ethical issues. They're going to have to make decisions. So the more you can help them to do that and to do it in a way that you would be proud of, the better they will be equipped to do it. So if you want to have a code of ethics, you need to also implement it. You need to get executive buy-in and commitment to follow through, and you need to tell them your expectations and then integrate that into mandatory staff training. Don't just tell them about it once and then let them forget about it. Remind them, make it important, let them see that it's your priority. Ensure that the code of ethics is global and local in scope. In other words, make sure that it applies to your people. All right, also build and maintain clear, trusted reporting structure for ethical concerns and violations. Let them know what to do if they've got an ethical situation that they're trying to come up with. And if you want to have a protection for whistleblowers, these are the people that see something going on that is wrong, and they need to know that they can tell somebody without fear of losing their job. So that's what we mean by protection of whistleblowers. And then we need to enforce the code of ethics. All right, so what is social responsibility? This is the obligation of a business to contribute to society. There are lots of companies that are doing all sorts of things about social responsibility. Some companies do the bare minimum, and some take it to a great level of lots of social responsibility. And so one of your discussion boards is going to be to research a company that is active in social responsibility and describe what their efforts are. All right, so first of all, we have to know who stakeholders are. Stakeholders are any person that has a stake in a business. So if you think about the company Apple, some of their stakeholders include their owners and investors, people that invest their own money into it, the people that work there, the employees, the customers that use their products, the local areas around their offices that benefit from the customers coming in and out, and also the tax base. So if you have an Apple store, the local government will receive tax revenue from that store. So there are lots and lots of stakeholders. Consumerism is a social movement focusing on consumer rights. So consumers that buy, for example, an Apple phone have the right to be safe, have the right to be informed, have the right to choose, and the right to be heard. So consumerism is a social movement that is always changing and always trying to protect the consumer. All right, I mentioned to you that some companies do a little social responsibility, or actually this says no contribution, and some are very proactive. So we have a spectrum. So no contribution would be some businesses do not recognize an obligation to society and they do only what's legally required. Some of them choose to respond on a case-by-case basis to market requests, and some of them are very proactive. These are the kinds that I want you to talk to me about on the discussion board. They choose to integrate social responsibility into their strategic plans, contributing as part of their business goals. So you'll find some companies that are socially responsible that do things that are good for the environment, that do things that are good for maybe the animals if they're in the market of selling meat, schools that may do above and beyond for their community. So these are some of the areas of social responsibility. All right, planned obsolescence. If you deliberately design a product to fail in order to shorten the time between purchases, this is called planned obsolescence. And it is not socially responsible, and it is not good for the consumer. You have a responsibility to investors. And one thing that is protecting investors is called the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This came about after WorldCom and Enron and some other scandals to try to protect those investors. It sets an even higher ethical standard for public corporations and accounting firms. And what we're trying to do, and what we did do with Sarbanes-Oxley, is to get back the public perception that we are ethical and we have high ethical standards. So this is very important for today's businesses. All right. In addition, we have corporate philanthropy. Some businesses donate to nonprofit groups, and that is another discussion board. That's the second discussion board that you'll be doing, which is finding a business that is very involved in the corporate philanthropy and telling about their efforts. For example, Zappos Shoes gives into the community free shoes to people who need them. So that would be a corporate philanthropy. And usually the best ones are tied to what the business is in the business of providing. Cause-related marketing is actually a partnership, a marketing partnership between the business and a nonprofit organization. And it's really to help the sales of the company and also raise money for the nonprofit. So it's good for both. All right, let's look at sustainable development. Doing business to meet the needs of the current generation without harming the ability of future generations to meet their needs. This is the goal of sustainable development, and all of these are actually going to be related to the environment, which is very important to everyone today. If you look at what a carbon footprint is, it's the amount of harmful greenhouse gases that a firm emits throughout its operations. And so all companies have to stay within the legal rules for their carbon footprint, but some are taking it even further and striving to do even better in this area. Green marketing is developing and promoting environmentally sound products and practices to gain a competitive edge. If you look at Whole Foods, they do a lot of green marketing, they do a lot of recycling, and they do a lot of letting the public know how their animals are treated and their beef and chicken, etc. They also let you know that their product that is packaged, the plastic and such, is recycled. And they do this both to be good for the environment, but it also helps them to gain a competitive edge, because this is important to certain consumers. So they're actually meeting a consumer demand in this area of green marketing. All right, in the global arena, we have bribery and corruption, and these are challenging areas because different countries have different rules on bribery and corruption, and in some countries, bribery is considered acceptable. So the U.S. has to constantly strive to not participate in things that we consider unethical and illegal, even though we're operating in a global environment where in those other places it may be done. So we need to establish a code of conduct for those vendors in other places that shows our clear policy and what's important to us and how to do right. If you think about child labor, we don't allow it. So we also need to make sure that people that we're buying products from are not allowing it. All right, there's a social audit. So, you can do a financial audit to see how well you're doing financially, if you've got net income, if you have profit. But there's also a type of audit called a social audit, and that's going to evaluate how well a firm is meeting its ethics and social responsibility goals. So success is measured by evaluating both financial indicators and social responsibility indicators. And then here, the threat of government legislation keeps companies motivated to self-regulate so that they are ready for any kind of legal demand that comes down because they've stayed proactive and done what they know is right. And that brings us to the end of Chapter 4.